Hi, my name is Uroš. Most of you don't know me or recognize me, but that's okay. Because actually, I wake up every morning as a different person. Today, I'm a guy with a beard. Yesterday, I was that girl on the bike that you notice in the street. And tomorrow, I might be sitting at the party and you wouldn't even know it. But that's okay. I'm fine with that. At least I was fine with that until I found someone and I fell in love. And now I have a problem. How do I approach her? How do I tell her who I really am? And how will she react? Will she freak out? Will she believe me? I'm afraid to approach her, but I know that only if I approach her and if that person sees me who I really am, that I will break the spell and become one person again. So hi, my name is Uroš, and that was, of course, that's not the truth, but it's a story. It's a very popular story, and it didn't come from the producers or Hollywood. It came from the brand, and most of you probably have recognized it. It's a core story of the Beauty Inside campaign from Toshiba and Intel. And it was a very successful story. It won a lot of viewers, a lot of advertising awards, and what I think was very good compliment, they won a Daytime Emmy Award. So to answer the first question, yes, brands can be storytellers, absolutely. But the area of storytelling I'm interested into my thesis is branded content. Now, branded content comes in a different formats. I was interested especially in the formats where more complex stories are written, where brands act as the producers, and they go out of their traditional advertising field. Why am I interested? Because I believe that with the branded content, with that kind of storytelling, brands can actually move from interacting people watching other content to actually influence people. And the best way to influence conversation between people is stories, because we think in stories, we tell each other stories. When I was looking into the storytelling, it was not, my aim was not to find a way how brands should write better stories, because it's impossible to write a recipe for a really brilliant story. But I was interested in what are the lessons brands can learn from storytelling and media in order to have a more strategic and business perspective on storytelling. My first goal was to see if I can try to find a sort of a model, a tool that brands can then later use when they create content or write stories. And I took some of the lessons from the storytellers into this model. So the first key element of all storytelling, as you know it, is the character. So the character is the essential element of the story. Brands usually are quite familiar with the concept of brand personality, but it's not enough. Storytellers tell us that if you want to have a true character, it needs to be what they call willful character. It needs to have a clear purpose, what he or she wants to do. There has to be an object of desire, and this character has to have a way to get it. Now, how can brands find character? I mean, some brands can find characters in their owners, like Steve Jobs or Richard Branson. They're strong characters, and they give the character to the whole company and the brand. Some brands can find that in a specific market situation, like, let's say, Avis did decades ago when it was the underdog, or in a broader social environment, like, let's say, Greenpeace is a crusader for saving the environment. But also, not all brands can do that. Not all brands have that. They can always try to see the different archetypes from the storytellers. We will not go into the details now, but they're simple, they're more complex, and brands usually like that one. It's a fairy tale structure for the archetype. The second, another thing. When you define the character, it's very important that it's very good aligned with your brand, if it doesn't come from the brand, because then you will have a consistent communication all over. Second element is conflict. Now, conflict is something that drives the story. Without the conflict, there is no story. And here, sometimes, brands have a problem. At least from my experience, they want to avoid conflict because they want to be secure. And conflict is about going from security to chaos. But without the conflict, there is no story. So how can brands actually choose their conflict? There are different ways to do it, but if they take a lesson from storytellers, every storyteller will tell you that you can address either an inner conflict, which in the case of the brand would be address the conflict of your customers. And I think Dove did this brilliantly with the Real Sketches of Beauty campaign. It addressed the inner conflict of women. In storytelling, then you have a personal conflict, when you have conflict with other persons, and brands can transform that into a conflict on the market with other brands, or maybe if they came on the market and they disrupt the existing business model like Airbnb or Uber. So you can take this as a conflict. Or you have a wider conflict. You choose something that you address, which Chipotle did very well in America when they addressed the question of industrialization of the food, even though they are fast food chain. So it was a very clever use of conflict. Third element, and I believe this is a storytelling element, are channels, because channels today are not just the way to distribute your content or your story. It can also, we can learn from the transmedia producers and storytellers, the channels can be a way to enrich your story. So your story can go through different channels. And another point, especially in digital area, is that channels can be a great way to include audience into the story. I mean, you can just have a dialogue with the audience, but in transmedia storytelling, they would actually include audience in the storytelling. That means for brands, they have to lose a bit of control. So not all brands are very easy with that. But if you have a well-structured elements, that's no problem, because then people have, they know what to do with your content. And when you align all those, I'm not going to go into details of what I write in my thesis, but if you align all those elements and you get a really strong idea what is your story, it's much easier to tell this story to the audience and will have a resonance. I will go to two cases today. One very briefly, the one that I already talked about is the Beauty Insight case, and just quickly show you why this case is so good. Not just because it's a really brilliant piece of storytelling. It could be written by Hollywood movie studio, but they had a great character. It's an introvert character. It's a character that's torn apart between who he is, and it goes well with the product itself. It's an Intel. You don't see it. It doesn't matter how it looks like. So it's the whole message is what's inside that counts. And they focus on the inner conflict. Actually, it's a conflict that we all have, is how we perceive ourselves and how people see us. So through this conflict, they could really address audience very well. And one thing that they did really, really well was to use those channels. The whole series was posted on Facebook and on YouTube. And because of that kind of a character who changes his appearance every day, and he has a video diary on his Toshiba laptop, they invited people to play that role because it was possible. It was integrated in the story. And 4,000 people applied for this role, and 26 people actually, at the end, played the part of Alex, the main character, in the film. So we can see that when you have all these elements so well structured, you can achieve great things. So to answer the question I put in my thesis is, how can storytelling help brands create content? I think it's a three-way to do that. To the storytelling perspective, it's knowing and understanding of your three or four key elements of storytelling. You need to understand the essence of storytelling. And from the strategic perspective, it's very important that whatever you do, this is aligned with your brand. Even you can like the story, it's a sexy story, fantastic story. If it's not aligned with your brand, it's not your story. And of course, there is a third, it's a business perspective. You have to understand the entertainment or content business. You need to know what are the rules there. You need to know who are the players. You need to know what are who are the talents, which talents do you need in order to achieve something. So I think these are the three main issues that when brands try to become storytellers outside the traditional formats must use. Not all brands can be storytellers in this type of storytelling formats. But for those who are, they can actually get a lot out of it because they can influence the conversation. They actually start to produce content that people want to watch and share. There was a survey done in 2013 about branded content, and the results were quite surprising. That more than 60-70% of the people don't mind branded content as long as it is good content. So to create good content, brands can always go back to storytellers and storytelling industry and learn. So yes, as I started, my name is Uroš. I'm Uroš Goričan. I work as a creative director at Publicis Groupe in Slovenia. I also work as a story writer and a producer in my own company. And branded content is my passion, and that's why I chose to write the thesis on that. Thank you.